Hello everyone, this is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today our guest is Gerald Meuse, who will be fighting on Cage Titans 62 November 11th. Hello Gerald, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for having me.
Gerald, you will be fighting against, I think, the overall solid fighter. He's on a winning streak. He has a winning record. He actually he has one good move, a guillotine choke. And what overall do you think about this opponent and how your camp is going?
Yeah, it's going good, yo. So overall, the opponent, yeah, he's a step up and he's pretty well rounded. He takes MMA seriously, like he trains full time. He takes MMA probably more serious than I take it. But you mentioned overall how the camp going. So I really don't do training camps, I guess. I just kind of train. Um, I don't like dedicate a lot of my like life to being like an MMA fighter per se. I just commit to martial arts and then I just go in there and test myself in a fight. I know people have brought that up that I need to take it if I wanted to go to the next level, that I'll have to be more specific with the training that I'm doing. Um, but yeah, I think overall it's a good test because he's a step up from the people, some of the people I've been fighting. Should be a good fight.
And what weight is that? Because on topology there is no information. Is it a lightweight, welterweight?
It's at 185 actually, middleweight.
Okay, so I think that it will be your debut, right, in the middleweight division.
Yeah, it will be because if I can win at and middleweight, then I'll have won in three different weight classes in 1 year.
Okay,
And light,
so it's a big thing. Even on regionals, and it's rare that the fighter is like changing weight classes, like three different weight classes.
yeah, exactly. It's not common.
And
I would say my normal weight is about 175, and I fought at 170, but I can cut weight down to 155 and 185. Obviously, I'm gaining weight.
but I think that it can be like interesting challenge for you also because I believe that your opponent will be a bigger fighter. And it's like not normal not to cut weight for MMA fighter.
Yeah, yeah, this is not normal to not cut weight. But no, I think the skill definitely overpowers the size when the skill is higher for sure. I think as the UFC fighters and the high level PFL fighters, they cut weight and it's very specific. But I think like at the local level, you don't need to cut as much weight as you think. I think if you're going to do a drastic weight cut, it's because you're going to make the jump to the UFC or something because you want to know what is your most competitive weight class.
And you are a very creative fighter. You have two twisters, and your last fight it was a heel hook win. So where does your creativity came from? Because it's a
Um,
rare thing to see two twisters on somebody's record.
yeah, it's rare. It is rare because I'm the only person. Yeah, it is rare. I guess that's because like when I go in there to fight, I think especially like in the regional level, a win is a win, right? But if you win in like a spectacular fashion, it's almost like winning two or three times in one fight. Um, so like whereas like I fight somebody and if I get them in a twister, then it's like huge. But if I just like ground and pound them and the ref stops it, it's like, oh, good win. But if you get them like in the Aminari roll into a heel hook real quick, it makes you exciting and people want to see exciting fights because the whole sport of MMA, it is a sport, but it's for entertainment. So you have to bring that entertainment factor. Granted, as you climb the ranks and you're fighting like the best people in the world, um, then it has to be a little bit more calculated and you have to break down your opponent to see what his weaknesses are and maybe what his favorite moves are before you make a move of your own.
And is there like, do you plan to go for a twister before the fight, or is just like you can see some holes in your opponent's game and then you try to take advantage of it?
It's not that I see any holes in my opponent's game. I just think that when I went for the twisters, I kind of was just like, oh, this will be exciting if I can get a twister. And I don't know, I kind of am good at getting the twister in MMA. Like I probably hit it more than any other submission, believe it or not. But it's a high risk move to do in MMA because if the guy ends up escaping, he'll end up on top of you. So you have to be smart about, the tactics you employ. Like when I did the Aminari roll into a heel hook, the guy I was fighting, Paul Teague, he was known as kind of like a Taekwondo guy, very unorthodox, does a lot of spinning attacks. So he wasn't really known for his wrestling. And I was like, if I try the Aminari roll and I don't get it, I'm not too worried about being stuck on bottom because he wasn't really known for his wrestling. So I was confident that if I had messed up the move, I would have been able to get some kind of reversal. But I knew where he was dangerous was on the feet. So I thought I would try something unorthodox and throw my opponent off guard.
And this fight lasted like 13 seconds or something around this. So
yeah, it was relatively short, which worked out good.
And do you have any submission in mind that you would like to use in one of the next fights of yours? Maybe not the next one, but like in a few other fights.
Yeah, definitely. I have at least my next two fights planned out, but like for this one and then the one after, for at least something as far as the entertainment factor goes, right? Because as you know, I like to do like an entertaining walkout, and then the fight, I try to make the fight good. And then also one thing I've improved on is you have to have a good post-fight interview. And that was one thing I feel like I have improved is I kind of think about what I'm going to say before the fight ends, what I'm going to say at the end. And, I think that, can help you a lot as a fighter. But yeah, I have like obviously for this fight will be the first fight I've actually trained for like 8 weeks. All the other fights, well, especially my first two fights, I really wasn't training at all for a fight. I just kind of cut weight and got in there. I mean, obviously I was doing martial arts, but I was not training like a serious fighter. And then when I fought Anthony Vasta in the third fight this year, I trained really hard for about a month for that fight. And that went well. And then my last fight I got like offered because his opponent got hurt and it was like a short notice fight at 170, and I was like, yeah, sure. But yeah, so this fight I should be relatively much more prepared than before. So,
And would you be interested in fighting for Cage Titans belt? But to be honest, I'm not sure which one because you've fought for this fight. It will be a middleweight, but maybe a lightweight or welterweight belt.
Yeah, I guess down the road, I'd be down for that. Yeah, maybe lightweight or 170. Now, yeah, I would be interested in doing that down the road.
Because I think that you are recognized by fans both because of your crazy submissions and also your walkouts. So I think that many people that are not even like super interested in the regional scene, they can they know you, they know your style and your like creativity, let's say.
Yeah, I guess I definitely am bringing something unique to MMA, and especially as the regional scene. Like you're from Poland. I don't even like. How did you hear about me? So I guess the word travels.
Yes, I actually watched your last fight, and after this, I like Googled your previous fight. So the last one was the reason why I found you.
Oh wow!
And did you have any background before starting MMA, like wrestling or boxing?
Um, I didn't really, yeah, no, I didn't really have any background, but I was like basically I started young. I started like 12 something years ago when I was like 19. And I've trained it consistently ever since. So I've been training for like 13 years.
Uh,
And I've stayed pretty consistent.
and what is your main gym that you right now are training in?
Yeah, my main gym is Sityodtong. So you can see it right behind me. It's in Boston, Somerville, technically. They call me the Somerville super soldier around here.
Yes, and it was a very known gym for many years. That they had many great fighters from the UFC, especially.
Yeah, especially when it was UFC was first becoming like huge with like Marcus Davis, Kenny Florian. Yeah, a lot of guys came through here.
Yes, I think that the Kenny is the one that many people like know the most because he fought for the UFC title even few times. So I think that he was a like main face of the gym before.
Yeah,
And
he was.
and when you are training, do you have like sparring partners but young prospects that can be in the UFC in let's say few years?
Yeah, there's a lot of people I train with that I could see going pretty far. Um, yeah, a lot of up and coming people that are train hard. Um, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in here they offer like different skills, especially Sityodtong's known for its striking. And that's not really like my primary thing. I'm kind of known as a grappler. But there's a lot of really good strikers. There's a lot of people in here that too that don't even have dreams of fighting in the UFC, but if you brought a UFC fighter in here, they would like tune them up because they just don't compete. Um, we have a, a, a he's a coach here. He's looking to fight, but Andreas, and like that guy could go toe to toe with anybody in his weight class in the UFC and give them a hard time. And he doesn't, train to fight at all.
And overall, you are a very good grappler, as we can see in your fights. And do you like start in any kind of grappling competition, either gi or no gi?
No, I don't really compete in any grappling, at least very often. Um, yeah, I don't compete in grappling very often, but I mean, I guess when I have, I've kind of like mauled everybody. Like I remember I did a jiu-jitsu tournament in gi like not long ago, and like nobody even scored a point on me, and I subbed everyone. And I remember people were like, "That guy's a sandbagger."
And you are right now an undefeated fighter. You have this like creative and an interesting style for like fans. And overall, do you plan to go to the UFC in let's say next few years, or you are focused more or taking interesting fights or regional scene?
Um, honestly, if you look at my record, you can see like I fight, but then I'm very like sporadic. So I really don't have plans to go to the UFC. I know a lot of people have brought that up to me. They're like, "Oh, you win one more, maybe two more, you can go to the UFC." But to be honest, this past January, so this year in January, I took a fight on like 2 weeks' notice, and I did it for charity, for a veterans charity, and and then like they were like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna go do a twister." And they're like, "Oh, really? That's never been done before. That's a bold call, considering you haven't fought in 5 years." And I was like, "Oh, we'll see." And then I went out there and got the twister in 2 minutes. And then I came back and fought an undefeated kid, Jake Hicksonbaugh, and I was like away for work multiple times for that fight. I was not training MMA at all. I probably got to train like 2 weeks over the course of like 8 weeks for that fight, like MMA training. And I was like, this kid's 2-0. He finished two people in the first round. I have fought two easy fights, and I finished both of them in the first round. You know, if I can beat this guy off no training, we'll see. We'll see where I'm really at. And you know, in that fight, I actually fought very differently than if you looked at all my other fights, because that fight I just came after him. And normally I'm not like that. Normally I'm definitely more calculated and composed. But that fight, I knew, like, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be sharp, so I just have to run at this guy and overwhelm him. And that's kind of what I did, is I just kind of kept coming forward on him and just beat him with the pressure. And that was kind of what I knew I needed to use on him, because I wasn't going to be like sharp, because I wasn't really training for the fight. But yeah.
But it was actually your biggest win of your career. So
Yeah,
if you can beat this kind of fighter without much of the training, it's like it would be interesting to see after 8 weeks
yeah,
who can you beat.
yeah, that is true. I know people in the Army tell me that often too, because you would think with 8 weeks that I'll come in a lot more polished and like ready to fight. But I've in the Army, a lot of times people tell me that when we do something, when we come up with a quick plan, I'll come up with a quick plan and I'll brief everybody, and I'll be like, all right, let's do this, and we'll do it like this, and we'll do like a quick rehearsal, and then we'll go and do it, and then it will like come out, the execution will come out like perfectly. And somebody actually told my coaches, that somebody in the Army told my coaches that Black Widow and Spider-Man, they said that, like, yeah, Jerry's known for that in the Army. Like, he'll come up with a quick plan, and he'll brief everybody, and then we'll go and execute it, and it will come out awesome. And it's like, I don't see anybody else pulling that off. So like, I definitely perform well under pressure. I will also say though, the better the walkout for the fight is, the better I perform in the fight. Because the Butte the first fight when I hit the twister, I came up with a funny walkout like 30 minutes before the fight. And then because I didn't know, I was like, I might fight this fight and never fight again. So let's make something of it. And I was like, let's do a funny walkout. I'll try to hit something crazy. And you know, I did. And then the second fight, I wasn't dancing at all, so I didn't really have a walkout. I had backup dancers. They bailed on me. So the walkout sucked. The fight ended up being kind of ugly. And then with Anthony Vasta, you know, I had a little funny walkout planned, and that fight went well. And then the Paul Teague one, that walkout was really funny, because if you remember, I came out to the song called "The Twist," and it was because I had two twisters. So they're like, "Oh, well, this guy's gonna try to twister him too," but I had no plans on doing the twister, because I knew Paul Teague would have been expecting a twister, and so I was like, I'll try something different. Something else also equally impressive.
Yes, but your walkout was like really interesting because there was so many characters from Marvel. So I think that many people can like this, especially that Marvel is like comics from Marvel and movies from Marvel are like super popular right now.
Yeah, exactly. And like, people either love it or they hate it. People see that and they're like, this guy's a dork, I hope he gets beat up. And then some people are like, this guy's hilarious, I hope he goes to the UFC. You know, so people either love it or hate it.
Yes, but if you have this kind of walkout, you actually need to win. Because
but I've noticed the better the walkout, the better the fight goes. It's something to do with like the rhythm. Because, you know, like when we talk about speed in martial arts, you know, when we talk about speed in martial arts, it's not the same as rhythm. Because like, if you have the rhythm of your opponent, it'll almost appear as if you're faster than him, even though the speed might not be different. It's because you're reading his timing and his movement, and you're even getting a sense of how he's interpreting the fight. Like, if you hit him and they grimace, or you kick him and you can tell you hurt him, you know, watching his breathing and just kind of how he carries himself if it goes to another round, you know, that's kind of reading the rhythm of your opponent, and you're trying to disrupt that. So I think the dancing kind of gives me an edge, to be honest.
Yes, and your opponents like they doesn't know what can he expect from you because they can see like, oh, he's a let's say a funny guy, but after a minute it's a twister or heel hook or I don't know, omoplata maybe.
Yeah.
And do you like to watch MMA fights, UFC fights?
Oh yeah, definitely. I do like watching. Like I definitely do watch a lot of MMA because I think too, if as a fighter watching MMA, you don't really. I mean, obviously you watch it for entertainment purposes, but you're also kind of studying the game as you're observing the fight, because as like a somebody who follows MMA closely, that like the game evolves, year after year, and it changes, and it's important to evolve with that. And really, if you want to be champion or you want to be the next great fighter, you kind of have to think about what is going to be next. Like what style is going to dominate everybody next? Because right now it's kind of like the Dagestani wrestling style. They're kind of starting to dominate like the UFC and some of the PFL. And so you kind of have to think ahead if you're, especially if you're like a young kid that's like 23, how can I develop myself over the next 5, 6, 7 years to where to have a style that will counter that style. Just like when UFC launched, they knew every martial art in the world, but nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was. And jiu-jitsu was like new at the time and nobody knew how to beat it. And then after it was out for a little bit, people learned how to counter it with like strong wrestling, good ground and pound, and some submission defense. You can kind of counter just a solo jiu-jitsu fighter. And obviously the more tools you have on your weapon belt, the more dangerous you'll be. But it's more about the proficiency of some of those tools and how you can utilize them in the fight.
And who is the fighter that you like watch the most?
Huh. All right. I guess I'd say some of my favorites are like I really like Wonder Boy, Stephen Wonder Boy. He's a good fighter. I like watching him. I've always like kind of admired GSP because he has like a good tactical mindset. Another one, of course, like is and I feel like Conor McGregor is one of the best of all time. If you look at him from an overall like marketing, charisma, fight style, and the fact that he just is willing to fight whatever, like he'll fight 45, 55, 170. Yeah, those are three that stand out. I really always liked Vitor Belfort too. Yeah, because he was kind of a beast. Like he fought John Jones last minute at 205 and he almost got him with the armbar. Yeah, that was a crazy one.
Yes, and
And I'll but
he had so quick hands, so he can like there was a one punch, and after this it was 6 other punches. So it was like super quick knockouts from him.
yeah. Oh, and Lyoto Machida too. I always liked Lyoto Machida. Just because he was very crafty and offered a very unique style to MMA. And I would say for character, like personnel, like I've really liked Damian Maya. He a really good grappler, but I felt like he always like stuck to who he was. And he had a very unique style too. He'd jump on people's back and like hit them while he's locked on their back. And yeah. How about you? Give me two of your favorites.
I would say that for sure Max Holloway.
Oh yeah, Max.
Yes, because he always bring the action to every opponent. And the second one, I for sure like Gilbert Burns.
Oh
Because
yeah,
even in lightweight division, and after this, I believe it was 2019, he go up to welterweight division. He defeated some very good fighters, and of course he fought for the title, fought against Chimaev. So it was also a great bouts. But he had he has something really interesting, because he's a very good grappler, like top level. But he also have a like great hands, great quick
yeah,
hands, and he is dangerous actually in every department.
definitely. Yeah, no, Gilbert Burns is a good one. And yeah, you're right. Max Holloway is a freaking he always goes for it. Like you can't think of one bad Max Holloway fight. Um yeah, he's always bringing it. Like that Korean Zombie. Oh yeah, Korean Zombie, another great one. Wow.
I actually hope that maybe not in the next fight, but maybe in a few maybe next year or after this, Max Holloway will fight against Edson Barboza, because Edson Barboza was also for so many years maybe not like top 5 guy, but let's say top 10 in either lightweight or featherweight division. So I think that it also would be a great fight.
Yeah, that would be a great fight. I think Edson Barboza needs to stay at 155 though. I think 145 is too low for him. Um, but yeah, Edson Barboza is a beast. He's got great kicks.
Yes, the best kicks in the game for so many years.
Yeah.
And outside of fighting, if you have some free time, maybe after the fight, what do you like to do then?
Oh, I guess after the fight, I kind of like to go and like mingle with all the fans and talk to everybody and yeah, that's kind of what I like to do after the fight, and then watch like the remaining fights left, and talk to my team that just fought. That's kind of what I like to do after. But if you mean like what do I like to do after like the whole day of the fight and decompress, um, I kind of like to relax and I kind of reflect on what I did in the fight. Like, what did I do good ultimately? Like, what went well? You know, what did we do bad? What did went poorly, and then what can we do better to improve? And taking that time to reflect, I think will make you better in the long run. But then for me, to be honest, it just goes back to normal life. Like I just go back to work and whatever. I wouldn't say like I wouldn't say honestly getting ready for a fight or fighting really impacts my normal life. I know that's not like the typical for an MMA fighter, because a lot of people like this is my life, this is what I do day to day. But that's really not me. I make sacrifices. Like I'll get up early in the morning to train, and then I'll train again in the evening. And I'm able to train, twice a day most days. And it doesn't really impact my work schedule or whatever else I got going on. So I guess stay disciplined and make sure I go to bed early enough to get up early to train. But other than that, it doesn't really impact my day-to-day life.
And I have two last questions. It's also outside of fighting. Do you have a bucket list, or can you share one thing from the bucket list, the things that you would like to do in your life?
Oh, just one thing or two things?
It can be two.
I guess one thing I want to do is I want to climb Mount Everest. Yeah, that's one thing I want to do. Yeah, climb Mount Everest.
So maybe after one of your fights, it can be like a reset from the fight game and overall life, and go and do it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, definitely down the road. I'm sure I've done more difficult things than climbing Mount Everest, but I think it'd just be a nice, different adventure. But did you know it costs a ton of money to climb Mount Everest? You have to like pay a tax and I guess the travel, and you can't like me and you couldn't just show up there and just want to climb it. We could technically get imprisoned for that. You have to like pay for a guide, and the reason is because so many people have tried that, and then they end up like needing an emergency, and then a ton of emergency people have to come rescue you. So they don't just let people just climb. They like go and just go up the mountain because drastically changes. Like the temperature at the base level and then the peak is like probably 50 degrees different. So it could be like 50 degrees at the base, but by the time you get up, it's like negative.
And one last question, because you have, because I think that you are a Marvel fan because of your walkouts. Who is your favorite character from like the universe?
Oh, definitely obviously my favorite character is Captain America. But that's because I relate to him because I'm in the army, and he's a super soldier and whatnot. But I really, what I like about Captain America the most is that he always does the right thing. And I think that for like, an MMA fighter or a strong man, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like sometimes when you're like a strong person, right? Or like you have physical strength, like going in there and fighting somebody in a cage and beating them up it might seem like a great feat to other people, but for a strong MMA fighter, it's really not. But sometimes making the moral, I guess the thing with Captain America, right, is that he started out as a weak person, and then what they told him was that don't let this strength go to your head, and because he was originally a weak person, he was less likely to, because he knew the value of strength, and he knew what it could be used for. Most importantly, I guess that's kind of the joke. Like if I am Captain America and I'm doing all these fights and winning, and then like going to the UFC, like I guess kind of my talent is being wasted because he should be fighting for world peace and freedom for everybody throughout the world, not. So I guess I'm in that part of the movie where he's like, "Oh, he's like, I'm being used as a dancing monkey when I should be doing something more." But
But I guess that Captain America is your favorite one. When you like put the
yeah,
puzzles together, it was quite obvious, let's say.
yeah, America's my favorite one. He's my favorite superhero. I guess if I had to pick a favorite super villain, I would pick. I don't know if you ever seen Black Panther.
No.
But if anybody's seen Black Panther, my favorite villain would be Killmonger, who was like he was basically like an elite trained military person who was like a CIA assassin, and then he becomes like the other Black Panther, and he has the powers. But he's very similar, I feel like, to Captain America, but I think his upbringing influenced him in a negative way. But how about you? Are you a big Marvel fan?
Yes, I like Marvel movies, but I have like I didn't watch all of them, so I have this few ones that I don't know the plot, let's say.
Who would you say is your favorite based on who you know?
No, actually, for me, it was always Spider-Man. It was even before the Marvel from like the animated series. It was my favorite one.
Yeah, he's definitely a popular one for sure.
Yes, one of the most. Okay, Gerald, so many thanks for the conversation. I hope that you will win this fight, and it can be also that I hope that it will be another like crazy submission that the whole world will know about.
Yeah, I'm coming in there to entertain. I'm not coming to win.